knew something was a little off. Good evening, everyone. Good evening to all who are here. So, is this where we go hello? Oh, did I prep this part yet? Oh, I didn't I? Oh, golly. I definitely did not prep this part at all. Okay, alright, so, I'm here, I'm vibing, I am graduated out of university, and I have some videos that I want to react to for some reason. Hi Brandon, also I changed my name since I needed a change. Hey Nexus Reaper, I think you were Shadow Sniper before, correct? If so, hey, what's good man? Hope you've been doing well. And if not, well then hi, how are you? But I'm gonna assume it's the former. Yeah. Alright. Okay. So, I have some videos that I want to react to. And this will be a YouTube thing. Wait, actually, hang on. It is currently nighttime for me. Oh, jeez. Oh, man. What are you doing here, then? I don't know. Alright, I have a few videos lined up for a reaction, and these will go on YouTube as their own highlights. In which case, hi YouTube, hello. Be sure to subscribe. I shouldn't be doing that right now, but yeah. So, I have 3 videos up. The first of which is going to be this video by Pro-Chara. I don't know how to pronounce your name. I'm gonna say Chara. Why some people still prefer Splatoon 1. Now I will say, I have never played Splatoon 1. However, I have played Splatoon 2 and a little bit of 3. I'm not as familiar with 3 as I am 2, but I've never played number 1, so I am interested in seeing why Splatoon 1 is considered to be certain people's preference. So let's find out. Also, congrats on graduation from university. Thank you, I appreciate it. I appreciate it very much.
Splatoon 1 is officially now a decade-old game. It came out on the Wii U and doesn't even have an officially supported online service these days. Being that it's the first game in the series, it has a significant share of problems that you would expect, and most people probably think that there's no reason to come back to it, with future games making crazy new additions like weapon classes, specials, stages, single-player expansions, horde mode, and so much more. However, despite all the developments, there's still a good portion of the player base which considers Splatoon 1 to be the better game, or at least worth playing alongside current entries. So today, we're gonna break down the 5 main reasons why people prefer Splatoon 1. And joining me...
You know, I want to say, before we actually, get into this, it's really interesting how some people, will play, older games simply because it's the one that, I don't know if convenience is the right word. I guess it's maybe growing up with. That doesn't sound right either. For example, Super Mario 64. There's the DS version, which is a completely different game in itself. And then there's also the I know there's another version of Mario 64 where everything is basically intact, but you can't do the backwards long jump. And I find that really interesting. So it's just yeah, people are just going to play the version that suits them the most. I don't know. It's something like that. For example, I personally really like Mario Galaxy, and I know that Galaxy 2 exists. And I have played it, I have 100%ed it, but I still like Mario Galaxy 1. I don't know, that's just my thing. I just like it more. It just took Nintendo just took a different approach with Mario Galaxy 1 that they didn't with Galaxy 2, that also tuned itself to their game direction now. I think that's that might be something. Have you ever played the DS version of Mario 64? Oh, I have, and I have beaten it. But good God, I did not actually like it that much.
Me for this video will be Dude.
Hello guys and welcome, it is Dude. I'm a Splatoon competitive player, also content creator, and during Splatoon 1's whole lifetime, I was also a top player.
Let's get the obvious point out of the way first. Number one is stage design. Both Splatoon 2 and Splatoon 3 have really struggled with this, to the point where it's a well-known flaw. While reworks to the maps in both games have helped with their issues, both still have a lot of linearity to their design with very few exceptions, and overall the stages feel a lot less creative. I've actually done breakdowns on both of these games' stage design, which I'll leave in the description for more detail.
Huh. You know, I have noticed, and it might be just because like I've never actually played Splatoon 1 again. But a lot of these maps are built the same way. Like, I think fundamentally speaking, yeah, of course they're gonna all look different, but their structure is almost the same. I don't know. Maybe they're gonna go into it more, huh?
Splatoon 1 was generally a lot more experimental with its stage design. This had the immediate impact of having stages that feel a lot more distinct from each other in their layouts compared to the so-called Tetris pieces of Splatoon 3. They almost always had some kind of unique gimmick, such as conveyors, fans, water level dropping, or spinners. Splatoon 3 did adopt this toward the very end of its life cycle, but it still didn't make as creative use cases out of these as Splatoon 1 did. Even without a unique gimmick though, most stages had distinct layouts. For example, Moray Towers has this extreme verticality. Black Belly Skate Park really does feel like you're on a skate park, not in a stage surrounded by a skate park, with different half pipes to move around. And Hammerhead Bridge, of course, while just using normal grates, combines them in a way that makes a unique setting with its bridge to be able to move around on. Now, I'm not trying to say that every layout or gimmick was a hit, of course. There were some really bad stages in this game.
God. I'm trying to think. Dude, I'm gonna be real. I don't remember any of these stages, although I'm sure I have played on some of them. I'm gonna guess that, again, it just comes from the fact that they're all built in, like, the same way. I have zero clue personally on how that works. But, okay. Oh, no, I have played on Mackerel before. Okay, no, never mind. I know at least one of these, but the rest of these I'm not as familiar with, probably. But, I don't know. Maybe this is a problem with me and the fact that I just haven't, like, played Splatoon 1. So, oh well.
And it wasn't until the later half of Splatoon 1's life cycle that I think they really added stages that were an insane level of quality above anything else in the series. But what it did result in is that even these weaker stages will generally feel more fun and distinct from each other. Besides all of that, I still do think the layouts themselves were generally leagues above other games, with a much larger variety of routes and options that left its best stages feeling like open playgrounds, constantly having new things to discover.
Am I watching on a potato right now, by the way? Holy shit, dude. Jesus.
Games, with a much larger variety of routes and options that left its best stages feeling like open playgrounds, constantly having new things to discover. In my opinion, only a few stages like Reef and Snapper hold a candle to this.
Now, let's talk about input lag when it comes to the Splatoon series. This is something that I've been personally complaining about for maybe the last 8 years, because with Splatoon 2 and Splatoon 3, it does persist a lot greater than you might think. To make it easy for you guys to understand, you should know that in Splatoon 2 and Splatoon 3, there is 6 frames of input delay. What this means is that when you press a button on your controller, it will take up to 6 frames or 1/10 of a second for that button input to show up on your screen.
Ouch, dude. Ouch. Oh my god. Yeah, that's really bad. Although, it might also just come from the fact that some TVs do have, like, frame delays and stuff. Because this is something, and this is where, like me being a Smash player, like, comes in. I, personally, hate playing Ultimate on like big TVs, and whenever you watch like people play Super Smash Brothers Melee, you're never gonna see them play on a giant monitor. You're going to see them play on like one of the smaller, more compact TVs and stuff. I forgot what it's, dude. I'm forgetting what it's called. CRT, there we go. Yeah, you're always gonna see them play on a CRT and not like one of these big monitors, because yes, even though it does look worse and there's gonna be that little hum that plays from the CRT, you actually get a much better like delay, in the sense where it's like, yeah, the input lag is like less. So yeah.
Just so you know, Splatoon 1 has 3 frames of input delay. This approximately equals around up to 100 milliseconds of extra lag that you personally have to deal with. When looking at Splatoon 1, it is the complete opposite, because Splatoon 1 only has 3 frames of input delay, which equals around up to 50 milliseconds of input lag, which means Splatoon 1 is twice as responsive in comparison to Splatoon 2 and 3. Now, ideally, you'd think combating these sorts of issues would be to wire up your controller up to your Nintendo Switch.
But that doesn't work.
For whatever reason, the Nintendo Switch does the complete opposite, because when you actually wire up your Pro Controller, it adds up to 1 to 2 more frames of input delay, which is kind of the complete opposite of what you actually...
What the fuck? That happens? Why? Literally, why? That's completely backwards. That's not how that's supposed to work. You'd think that it would make it more responsive, but no, it makes it even less That's so dumb. That's so fucking dumb. I'm glad I never played on a I'm glad I never played Ultimate on a Pro Controller. Or rather, I did, but I'm glad I swapped to GameCube. Oh my goodness.
One, but it is something that has persisted for regular Nintendo Switch Pro controllers for, of course, the last 8 years. So why this might be happening is that the Nintendo Switch itself has its own sort of system latency, which seems to be greater than the Wii U itself. What we are hoping for is that the Nintendo Switch 2, which is coming out about next month from now, will hopefully be able to actually sort out a bunch of these issues, especially fixing that wired communication issue. Given that I have played on a Nintendo Switch 2, all I can say is right now is that it seems extremely promising in terms of its input delay. We will still need to test Splatoon 3 on the system just to see if that is reduced input delay, but undoubtedly for the future of the Splatoon series, I don't think we will have to deal with these input lag issues, especially with the introduction of 120 frames per second gaming, which Splatoon will most likely get.
I do wonder about how people feel, or at least how Splatoon players feel now that the Switch 2 is out, and the fact that, like, you know, again, the 120 FPS. I wonder how people feel about that. Is it better or worse on the Switch 2? I would imagine better, but as we know, multiplayer really isn't a concern to Nintendo, or at least in terms of like Smash. Again, Smash Brain coming out here. I don't know how it is with Splatoon. I'm sure it's a little bit more of a concern to them, but Ultimate's not.
On top of that, just to throw this one in here, Splatoon 1 has a slightly higher tick rate at around 25 Hz, and I believe Splatoon 2 and 3 are around either 16 to 20 Hz, meaning there's more information being sent during Splatoon 1's games compared to the future ones.
So it got worse, is what you're saying. Okay, that's putting it lightly. That's putting it like that's just generalizing. I think but it does like every joke like comes with a merit of truth. So in a way, yeah, it did get worse. There's less information like going around in Splatoon 2 and 3 than there is in 1. Is it? I wonder if it's just because of the fact that it's a completely different console.
But taking best advantage of this decreased lag is the next point on this list. Main weapon power level. Weapons in Splatoon 1 are just really broken, and some people very much enjoy that. Rollers have always had a consistent hitbox in that game, chargers have partial one-shots, blasters have giant area of effects and solid air accuracy, brushes have damage overlapping for faster kills up close, and the list goes on. While the absolute best weapons in the game is a small and strict list, the overall power level of the main weapons are a lot higher, which means even if you're picking something that would be considered a bottom of the barrel weapon, it might actually feel quite good in this game.
Like, honestly, if you really wanted to bring out the Sploosh-matic and dominate with it, you probably could. I might be a little bit biased because I definitely did win a tournament using the Sploosh-matic in a grand final set, but I guess the thing that I'm trying to say is that majority of weapons are just generally really solid. Like, I remember going against several different comps and people using like the custom Hydra Splatling, the heavy Splatling Deco, the Zimmy Splatling, of course, very good in its own right. The Squiffer, if you were good with it, you could probably make it work too. There were also a bunch of people who used the Bamboozler. It's just that in Splatoon 1, you had so much more freedom over some of the main weapons you'd want to pick. It's just that in Splatoon 3, in a competitive setting, you wouldn't even dare to use something like a Sploosh-matic or other weapons that aren't considered that strong. It's because
I wonder if I wonder if that's because like there are just more weapons, and with that comes like power creeping. Because that's a thing that happens to like Pokemon, for example. The more Pokemon that are introduced, the more like power creep there is, because like everything gets stronger and stronger.
Because the main weapons themselves aren't as strong like they were in Splatoon 1.
That's what I mean.
Part of Splatoon 1's focused on a more individual, self-sufficient style of gameplay. Most main weapons are able to function just fine on their own with less dependency on others. Even weaker painting weapons aren't hurt as badly by this because strong paint is much more toned back in Splatoon 1 compared to other games with few exceptions, which makes it really hard to have a significant paint gap over your opponent, at least not without drastically losing out in fighting power. I think this in particular means the random comps you get in matchmaking feel a lot more playable. While the weapon kit power is comparable to Splatoon 3 in my opinion, and that game definitely has more viable kits with the quantity it has, Splatoon 1 still maintains some of the most powerful combinations of weapon kits in the game, such as Burst Bomb Echolocator on E-Liter or Wall and Bubbler on H-Tree. In general, main weapon power is fun, and while I think Splatoon 3 in particular has done a good job giving that a better spotlight, Splatoon 1 currently still does it better. Hopefully the balance changes keep coming though. This video is sponsored by Splatoon Stronghold. This is a hub for competitive Splatoon, offering services for both new and old players with a website and Discord full of resources for those looking to get into competitive play. And they've just started the Beginner's Academy.
In Splatoon 1, there are certain abilities that created this really unique kind of dynamic where it would influence someone's unique playstyle. Now, just so you know, in Splatoon 1, Stealth Jump and Ink Resistance were both considered main abilities. Stealth Jump in the future games still act this way, but Ink Resistance was just a main ability and you could only wear it for your shoes. The thing about Ink Resistance in Splatoon 1 is that it was much stronger in comparison to what we have in Splatoon 3. Ink Resistance allowed you to really move through your enemy's ink much easier, while of course, so you know, in Splatoon 1, Stealth Jump and Ink kind of
Recommend it.
In Splatoon 1, there are certain abilities that created this really unique kind of dynamic where it would influence someone's unique playstyle. Now, just so you know, in Splatoon 1, Stealth Jump and Ink Resistance were both considered main abilities. Stealth Jump in the future games still act this way, but Ink Resistance was just a main ability and you could only wear it for your shoes. The thing about Ink Resistance in Splatoon 1 is that it was much stronger in comparison to what we have in Splatoon 3.
Oh, okay. So, did it get, like, nerfed or something? It sounds like it got nerfed. I don't know. It sounds like it got nerfed, and therefore, like, maybe it helps, like, with moving around and stuff. Because it turns out, yeah, people really like to move around in gaming.
Ink resistance allowed you to really move through your enemy's ink much easier, while of course on top of that taking less damage. Now it was
And
great
look at
for
how
being
much
so
time
strong
it
because
took. Look at how much time it takes.
easier, while of course on top of that taking less damage.
It's an entire 25 seconds, like, more. Holy shit. No wonder people really like this game.
Now it was great for being so strong because it influenced the playstyle of a player actually just wanting to cut through ink more often than usual, which allowed you to take a whole lot more fights and actually just survive within the enemy's ink.
But with that also, like, with that getting nerfed, people aren't able to tread through other people's ink as easily. Okay, I think I have an idea of where that's going, yeah.
Stealth jump, it influenced a more conservative playstyle where you actually had to paint your surroundings first before you actually try to take on a fight if you wanted to win a fight. And it made it much harder just to cut through ink because you're suffering from the lack of ink resistance. And thus, you take way more damage much quicker. So what I'm trying to say is that I wish we had the choices like this again, because in Splatoon 3, it feels more so that everyone has to wear stealth jump or else. Like 10% of the time, there's probably that one case that, okay, one person's gonna run Object Shredder and all that, but it very much feels like that the only main ability that you would want for your shoes is going to be stealth jump. In Splatoon 1, we had that choice whether we wanted to use ink resistance or we wanted to use stealth jump.
So, does everyone just use stealth jump in Splatoon 3? I mean, I say this as, like, not a competitive player. I'm a more casual player who plays every so often. For the record, Splatoon's really hard for me to play, and I just have a lot of questions about it. But from the sound of it, it looks like it was either you play stealth jump or you have the ink resistance, and you could only choose either or. And I'm guessing, like, ink resistance is more of an aggressive choice, whereas stealth jump is more passive, question mark. I don't know.
Even though stealth jump was still very, very strong with not being able to actually see the opponent's jump, the thing is that competitive players back in the day, we all adapted to this. Quite literally, if we had taken out an opponent prior to taking one out before, we would look to the skies to check for that next stealth jump to come in. This is something that you don't do in Splatoon 3 anymore because you can now see the jump, but in Splatoon 1, this is how we used to play, and honestly, me playing now, I still play this way.
I don't know if I would like that personally. That seems a little too meta-defining. And again, it might just be from the fact that, again, I've never played this game, so I don't know.
So I just hope in the next Splatoon game that we do get those unique abilities that makes us think about what we're wanting on our gear. Do we want to have that strong ink resistance? Do we want to have that strong stealth jump? Or do we want another main ability that's really strong that influences a new playstyle?
I think with that, with new abilities, like, comes in, like, more competition. And I guess in a way it's kind of good, but also it requires more thinking. And to some people, again, that's a good thing. Me, I just like playing the way I like playing, so I don't know. I don't like to think too hard about how I play certain games. Now, with that being said, like, me being a hardcore Nuzlocker is a little different. So yeah, I like to do the thinking, like, off screen, question mark. I don't know. I think I'm trying to say, like, I don't like thinking in the moment. That's what it is. Because, I don't know, I just don't have the ability to do that as well as others might.
And last but not least is one more ability, the most infamous one in all of Splatoon, and that is Quick Respawn. This had a completely unique function which is that no matter what happens, your respawn will always be faster. One of the big complaints Splatoon 1 can get is that it's extremely chaotic, and because of that, it's very easy to die to things like the more powerful weapons or specials. But this ability was a nice way to balance those broken attributes by just throwing another broken one at it. You never feel like you have too much downtime in this game because this ability, mixed with the already mentioned stealth jump, combine to keep you constantly in the action. This is really something that only works because of how broken everything else is, and this leads to a game where not only can things happen fast, but you can also recover even faster, leading to by far the most action-packed 5-minute matches in the series. In conclusion, this video isn't trying to...
So, quick respawn, huh? I'm trying to think, would I like that or no? I think from what they're saying, it is, like, fundamentally a good thing. Because, like, there's so much stuff that's broken, and the way they fix it is throw another broken thing into it. But I don't know if that's... I don't know if I personally like that. Trying to think of what to say there. Cause like... Like, I don't know the specifics of, like, Splatoon 1. I'm just hearing that it's, like, super chaotic and stuff. And, I don't know. So, what they did, they saw all the broken stuff, and they fixed it, kind of, by adding another broken thing. And I guess, yeah, in a way, like, yeah, quick respawn is good because it puts you back into the action. Okay, no, I think it's a good thing then.
Say that Splatoon 2 and 3 are bad games. In fact, I'd still consider Splatoon 3 to be the overall best game in the series. However, I do think Splatoon 1 has a little bit of magic that just hasn't fully been recreated in its sequels, that I hope to see back one day. Because of these things, I think Splatoon 1 will always have this unique advantage over others and continue to have a soft spot in the community. So if you want to help celebrate this game's 10-year anniversary, I'd recommend checking out that SRB2 Dude's guide on how to play Splatoon 1 today, or just take a look back at the game today. Thank you all so much for watching, and a special shout out to Dude for working on this video with me. I will see you all next time.
Good video, yeah! That was a nice video. I mean, it's, again, like, me not being as knowledgeable as, like, others might be in Splatoon 1, really doesn't help, on my end. And, like, just me being, like, really bad at the game, too. But I do think it's an interesting, retrospective. 'Cause... Like you get to get a look at what it is. You get to look at what it is that other games did better that some of the newer games might struggle to do. Part of it might be innovation, or at least advancing the innovation, processing power, and other stuff. I don't know. But yeah, I think it's an interesting video. That was fun. That's video 1. Yeah. Alright, so I have another video that I want to watch, and yes, it is MatPat. I want to give a quick disclaimer about this. This video might contain some stuff that is like very controversial, such as like politics, and for the record, I hate politics. But it is less about the politics and more about like me analyzing human behavior. That said, I am making it a thing where this particular reaction video is going to be unmonetized, because I don't think making a profit on this is a fun idea. Now, without further ado, I have this video that a certain theorist made, none other than our good old pal MatPat, and the video is called Game Theory. We need to talk about FNAF. Now, I'm gonna preface this here. I have already watched this video. However, I recently watched it again and thought that it was a very interesting video about the studying of human behavior. Now, I'm not a doctor. I don't know what I'm saying. I could be just saying this out of my ass. But it gave me... It made me rethink about a lot of things and stuff. And it's like the best way I could... I cite this video a lot without even thinking. But yeah, I don't know. We'll just play it here.
This is going to be a hard one. Today we're going to talk about FNAF, like we have so many other times before on the channel. Speaking of, how many times have we talked about FNAF?
I'm gonna skip like this. I'm gonna skip around a little bit, by the way.
Fine, I'm sorry. I've had a blessed, fulfilling, and rich career. I've tried to make some good games, let the debate ensue, and I've witnessed the creation of possibly the most creative and talented fan base on the planet. But here, on the 7th anniversary of the first game's trailer, I realize I miss a lot of things that I got to focus on before FNAF became such a success. I miss making games for my kids, I miss doing it just for fun, and I miss making RPGs even though I stink at it. All this is to say that I'm retiring. End quote. He then goes on to thank everyone for their kindness, say that he's excited to spend time with his family, and assure everyone that FNAF is going to continue under the guidance of someone of his choosing. Scott, consider this channel my application for the role.
Now,
I'm here for you, buddy.
now I want to tell you real quick. So yes, this video is about like the whole like Scott political donations and the retirement that he made, which, let's be real, he didn't actually, well, as far as I'm seeing, like, he didn't actually retire, because he's still working on like the movie and stuff. He's still guiding the direction of the games, I'm pretty sure. He's still actively doing like interviews with people whenever he sees fit, and so on and so forth. It's my understanding that it doesn't look like that he retired, but I can't be so sure. I'm not Scott.
All kind of joking, but also kind of not joking aside, this alone would be a huge deal, right? One of the most successful indie developers of all time stepping down from his still mega popular series after 7 years, with a book series still being released until the end of the year, a new game on the verge of being released, and a movie that's still in the works. I mean, he takes his victory lap around the internet as everyone celebrates his work, and he fades away to go
Oh yeah, he writes
with
books.
his family doing whatever it is that indie
Kind of.
devs do with their piles of cash. Buy a cereal wall, a candy room, bacon every day for breakfast. I don't know why I think that, but I just imagine that bacon is something that rich people have for breakfast every day because it's like the best food ever. But that's not the complete picture of what's going on here, because it's actually the circumstances around his retirement that caused the hashtags to trend. You see, in the days leading up to his announcement, word had gotten out that Scott had contributed sizable amounts of money to various political campaigns in the years between 2016 and 2020. Using the website OpenSecrets.com, an independent nonprofit that tracks U.S. political donations, users learned that Scott had contributed around $42,000 to various political campaigns. Now, that on its own might not have been all that newsworthy. No, what made people sit up and take notice was who he had contributed funding to. Republican candidates like Ben Carson, Mitch McConnell, Donald Trump, controversial political figures whose voting histories had been anti-civil rights over the years, especially as it relates to the LGBTQ communities, which, you know, a large portion of the FNAF fan base is. And I've seen a lot of people online responding with a, so what's the big deal to all of this news? But you have to stop and actually think for a minute about the position of a lot of the LGBTQ fans of this franchise. This revelation understandably hurt a lot of members of the FNAF fan community, considering that Scott's franchise has been this welcoming and inclusive space for them, one where a lot of people have found the ability to express their unique identities, to know that their support of these games and their game's creator, especially the financial support that comes with that their dollars had wound up funding campaigns for people who are looking to withhold or remove their rights, to fund the elections of people who would forward legislation that treats them as less than human. Yeah, that's gonna feel really horrible. It's gonna feel like a betrayal. It's gonna feel like you had funded your own worst enemy. At first, people thought that Scott's account must have gotten hacked, right? There was no way that he could have done this, or at the very least that maybe he donated to a blanket Republican fund where his dollars had gotten funneled into individual campaigns without his knowledge. But no, after a few days, Scott took to Reddit and affirmed that these were indeed his choices, which then just proceeded to blow the internet up even more. A few days later, he retired, and that was that. A confusing and awkward end to the career of someone who had legitimately changed the face of horror and indie gaming forever. Now, a lot of you have been asking me for my response to the whole thing. Does the channel stop?
I'm gonna skip around a little bit here.
This entire franchise now, not just Scott himself. And let me make it clear, just because I choose to support the series doesn't mean that I think anyone in the community now, of this entire franchise now, not just Scott himself. And let me make it clear, just because I choose to support the series doesn't mean that I think anyone is wrong to not support it. That's definitely not the case. Wherever you choose to draw the line on this issue is completely valid. I'm just taking you through my thought process and all the variables that I went through as I came to terms with this whole issue. But aren't I, by supporting the series, contributing to Scott's income and thereby what he chooses to do with that, you might ask? And yeah, you probably are, sadly.
Yeah.
And that's just a choice that everyone's going to have to make based on their own personal criteria. To me, the good of supporting the community around the franchise and the jobs that it creates is worth whatever minor impact that Scott may be able to enact in the political sphere, which is an issue we'll be getting to in a second. Because here's the thing, friends, this sort of dilemma applies to pretty much any major company that you talk about.
Yeah.
There are good people and bad people pretty much everywhere. And not even that extreme, there are just people that you agree with and people that you disagree with everywhere. For one example that I think we could all relate to, just look at Walt Disney. There's great evidence to show that Walt was probably prejudiced against other races, women, other religions. As one biographer states, quote, Disney willingly, even enthusiastically embraced anti-Semites and cast his fate with them. So, do you stop watching Disney movies as a result of that money going directly into his pockets?
Probably
Or,
not, right?
I guess at this point, the cryogenic pod that the Walt Popsicle waits in, waiting to be reincarnated one day. Or, a more recent and much more extreme example, billionaire J.K. Rowling, creator of the Harry Potter universe, who has just all sorts of problematic viewpoints that she chooses to share on Twitter.
I
Do you
agree.
stop supporting the Harry Potter franchise to prevent adding to her immense wealth? You can, and it is absolutely a valid option. Hitting people in their pocketbook is always the best place to get them to notice. But where things get complicated is when you start looking to their influence outside of just their IP. J.K. Rowling, for instance, is rumored to earn a cut of every ticket sold to Universal Studios. Does that mean you then boycott that entire place?
No.
Even if that isn't true,
I
it's
don't
still
think
a
so.
licensing deal that she profits from. And by going, you contribute to her ongoing success. It is like this impossible dilemma. I think the TV show The Good Place actually summed this issue up best.
These days, just buying a tomato at a grocery store means that you are unwittingly supporting toxic pesticides, exploiting land, contributing to global warming. Humans think that they're making one choice, but they're actually making dozens of choices they don't even know they're making.
In my mind, it ultimately amounts to a personal choice where you have to weigh the good of a decision against the bad. As YouTube video essayist Lindsay Ellis said in her examination of whether you can support Harry Potter without supporting J.K. Rowling,
because of her wealth and influence, she's going to be believed more than the lived experience of trans people. And while you can absolutely control the way you read or engage with a text, you cannot control the way an author uses their money and influence.
Yeah.
And if LGBT rights are something very important to you and you think Scott is dangerous to those, then him stepping down from the franchise and removing himself from social media dismantles a lot of the things that could make him dangerous moving forward. So you can always weigh that into your consideration of how you're going to view the overall franchise. Again, where you choose to draw that line is absolutely your choice and your choice alone. I'm just taking you through my week of soul searching and all of the factors. So that's why I'm choosing to support the franchise moving forward, but it leads perhaps to the biggest question of them all, which is Scott himself. How to feel about him, you know? Again, because the internet moves so fast and because everyone just hates to read, I never really saw people looking at what he actually said in his response to all this drama. Instead, just jumped to the conclusion of, well, he admitted that he donated to these people, so he needs to be canceled now. And hey, to some people, that's enough. Just supporting some of these individuals is an outright deal breaker, and again, that is totally your right to make that call.
Dude, I hate the state that the internet is in right now, because like, yeah, I get it that moderating the internet like now from how unbelievably unmoderated it was back then, yeah, I think it's good. However, there's some people who are like so, it's like, however, there are some people that are just looking for people to hate just because, and it's led to like the creation, or at least I think it led to the creation of one of my absolute least popular or least favorite memes of all time, and that is when the random celebrity that I don't like gives me a reason to hate them. That is, or something like that. That is like one of my least favorite memes ever. Now, that being said, you can like choose to not like any creator at all. Like, you couldn't choose not to like Markiplier. I personally choose not to like Dream, for example. I might choose to like some aspects of Peachal. Some others might not. Some people may like Ludwig. Others may not. Some people may I don't know, like who's another creator? I got it. Some people like J-Schlatt. I don't. and you don't need to like go off of like you can not like a person all you want, but looking for a reason to hate them is really unhealthy. You should just go off of your gut.
Oh, but to me, I wanted to know more, right? Because I had a feeling that maybe this is tied to the state of American politics. And this is stepping way outside of my comfort zone here on game theory, but personally, I just hate American politics.
I agree.
It's always been a frustrating process to me because it forces you into one of two buckets. Are you red or are you blue? Are you elephant or are you donkey? Are you Republican or are you Democrat? It is a binary choice between two parties, two people that are for these really important jobs, and that's about it. There are no other options. Or there are other options in the form of independent candidates and third parties, but because the system is set up the way it is, they don't really
It's
stand
so
that much of a
dominant.
chance. And so everyone is always telling you that if you vote for them, you're throwing away your vote. So long story short, most elections just wind up being a compromise. You have to pick and choose whatever your most important issues are for that election cycle.
And that's the
because
problem,
no
right?
one candidate truly embodies them all. You have to vote for the lesser of two evils.
And that's the problem. And I'm not gonna say right now, regardless of like whichever candidate that like you choose, yes, you're gonna have your reasons, right? There's no true perfect candidate, and like there's no true perfect answer for anybody. And whoever you vote for, I think there's gonna be at least some person who's really angry at you. For example, you might prioritize human rights as a far bigger priority than most others, and understandably, if you see them voting against it, you're gonna feel understandably hurt from that. I do, while I do like I also prioritize human rights in a sense, but also like I like to look at the other like issues that that like people like choose to vote in favor for. For example, like this, we're gonna get into like something here later. Well, actually, we might as well just get into it right now.
In a sense, there is never this one perfect candidate that truly represents me as the voter, and I hate that. And I wouldn't be surprised if maybe Scott felt like he was in a similar position. So I wanted to look closer at his response. And admittedly, it's a long one, but I think it's important to not overly edit Scott's words in this case, but don't worry, we'll break it down as we go through it. I've debated greatly how best to address this, including not addressing it at all. But with so many people from the LGBT community in the fan base that I love, that's not an option. I'd like to think that the last 7 years would have given me the benefit of the doubt in regards to how I try to treat people. But there I was, trending on Twitter for being a homophobe, getting doxxed, with people threatening to come to my house. All this because I exercised my right and my duty as an American citizen to vote for and support the candidates who I felt could best run the country for everyone, and that's something that I won't apologize for.
And that's perfectly okay, by the way. What a crazy frame. That's something that no one needs to apologize for, like, because like voting is a right that every U.S. citizen should have. Now, like that being said, obviously people are going to judge you for who you choose. Some people are going to choose red and people will get angry at them. Some people will vote blue and then people will get angry at them as well. There's, again, no perfect answer. But if I were to, let me go back like here. Because the thing is that, yeah, the party that Scott voted for is, like, you know, not favoring human rights, but also he has helped the cause for human rights as well. So for example, like the Trevor Project, he's donated like quite a lot to the Trevor Project. Honestly, even more than the political donations that he sent. So I don't necessarily know if calling it even is the right term, but I don't know.
Okay, let's break there for a minute. First, as someone who has received very vivid death threats and have had to go into hiding out of fear of my family's life, just because I do a dumb show online where I call Sonic slow, personal attacks and threats are not okay. Never, period, end of story.
I agree.
Or disagree with him for who he chooses to support, fine. Pull your support of him, of his franchise, of his games, absolutely. But harassing and threatening someone's life and his family simply because they supported someone you disagree with makes you no better than the people that you're fighting. That's just the way I feel. And when it comes to giving Scott the benefit of the doubt, like he asks for in this response, honestly, he has that from me. It's easy to overlook, but Scott over the years has donated over $1.2 million of his own money to charities.
Scott called it himself!
Including $50,000 to the Trevor Project, an organization that is focused on helping LGBTQ youth. Does that necessarily negate the $42,000 that he made in political donations? Again, that is a personal choice for you to make the call on, but I think it at least merits hearing the guy out.
I agree, and yeah, that's the problem. Cause like one of the bigger issues is that like it's because Scott funded a side that was not in favor of some people, and now obviously that could be a deal breaker to some. But that being said, like again, I think it merits like hearing people out. I basically just regurgitated what Matt said here. Never mind.
Anyway, the quote continues. For those of you who took the time to look, you saw that the candidates I supported included men, women, white people, black people, Republicans, and Democrats. I supported Kimberly Classic in Baltimore because I believed that she really cared for the African American community there and wanted to pull them out of poverty. I believe she could have really made a difference in a time when so many black communities were struggling. She lost, unfortunately. I supported Tulsi Gabbard, a Democrat, even though I disagreed with her on several issues, because I felt she would have been a good and fair president. And yes, I supported President Trump because I felt he was the best man to fuel a strong economy and stand up to America's enemies abroad, of which there are many. Even if there were candidates who had better things to say to the LGBT community directly and bigger promises to make, I believe that their stances on other issues would have ended up doing much greater harm to those communities than good. All of this explanation, I fear, is wasted, as people don't want to discuss with one another anymore. They want endless apologies and submission. People who are expecting those from me will get neither, end quote.
Yeah. And hang on. So the big thing
Economy and stand up to America's enemies abroad, of which there are many.
So the big thing here is that Scott supported Trump, who's obviously, as we know, like very against the LGBT community, and I agree, it sucks. It sucks in that case, and now the thing is that like obviously like it's obviously a problem that that like Trump like doesn't support the like LGBT community, but also I want to like point out that like Scott made these donations to people who like they didn't, it's that they were focusing on like other issues that weren't related to the queer communities and stuff. Specifically in this case, like all these candidates that Scott donated to, or most of them at least, wanted to like make strong economies and have stricter foreign policies and stuff. Now, whether they did good or not is completely debatable, but I'm not going to get into that. The point is that Scott made those donations based on those issues. Now, you could say that, oh, just because he didn't take into account the LGBT community, it's a problem. In a way, yeah. But also, like, he's not against it. He's not against the LGBT community. If anything, like, he's obviously been for the LGBT community with, like, the whole Trevor Project stuff. I just think that it's wrong to say that Scott would be like a bigot, for example, just because he supported these candidates.
Even if there were candidates who had better things to say to the LGBT community directly and bigger promises to make, I believe that their stances on other issues would have ended up doing much greater harm to those communities than good. All of this explanation, I fear, is wasted, as people don't want to discuss with one another anymore. They want endless apologies and submission. People who are expecting those from me will get neither, end quote. Okay, so now this gets to the heart of the problem that people had with Scott, who he chose to support through his donation dollars. And the list is quite long. If you look at OpenSecrets.com, 16 candidates specifically singled out for donation dollars, with one Democrat Tulsi Gabbard from Hawaii, like he called out in a statement, who, in his response, he not only chooses to support, but actually calls out as his first choice of candidate for president. I think this actually merits looking into. It's a bit weird. I'm about to roll into kind of like a mini game theory on political donations, which I don't really love, but hey, if we're doing it, let's do it right, so here we go. So, looking at the timeline of his 2019 and
Cannot
2020
believe
donations,
it.
Tulsi is in fact the first to receive any money from Scott, followed by his donation to Trump 2 months later. Now, this timing also happens to coincide with Tulsi starting to lag in the polls. What this tells me implicitly is that when his first choice, Tulsi, was no longer a viable presidential candidate, he instead pivoted and donated to the candidate that he most believed in, who also had the best shot of winning, Donald Trump. But what was the policy that Scott appears to have cared about the most? Well, if you look into all of the candidates that he chooses to support, there's one and only one commonality across all of them: tough foreign policy. Keeping the military strong, keeping trade strong, and standing against foreign powers like North Korea. This also coincides with his statements about defending against enemies abroad, recovering the economy, and how other issues would do more harm to the country than good. Apparently to Scott, nothing worse can happen to your civil rights than getting dunked on by an overseas nuke. Now, I've seen people say that everyone on Scott's donation list also had a history of opposing same-sex and transgender rights. I chose to look into this, and across the board, that's largely true,
Except
for Tulsi, who, well, she was inconsistent about it at best.
Yeah.
It's true, she had a history of being anti-LGBT, but since joining Congress in 2013, she supported efforts to promote LGBT equality, including co-sponsoring pro-LGBT legislation like the Equality Act, which, if you don't know, is a bill to amend the 1964 Civil Rights Act to promote and protect LGBT individuals. And then, again, at the top of 2019, she went on Twitter to defend trans Americans in the military. So, big ups to her on all of that.
I agree.
However, things get more complicated because in 2020, her reputation was again put into question when she introduced a bill that many saw as anti-transgender.
Yeah.
Something that was leveled hard against Scott's choice to support her. But it's worth noting that this was after Scott chose to donate to her campaign.
Yes.
The TLDR of all of that voting nonsense is this: when Scott chose to support her campaign, publicly facing, she was pro-trans rights. That's it. That's the best I can put it.
Now, I will say, that's another funny freeze frame. That being said, I will say I have heard that Tulsi is a Republican now. I don't know 100% on that, but that's what I have heard. This obviously is, dude, this is obviously not fun to like discuss about, because this is really getting into like controversial like topics and stuff, and I don't like talking about this very much, because I'm gonna be real. Look, I love the LGBT community. I love, in a way, kind of. I grew up with FNAF, so like needless to say, like I'm gonna give a lot of benefit of the doubt to Scott, and like at least like hear out an explanation. And hearing all of this is like super like understandable in a way. Now, like obviously this comes with the fact that like this is supporting like people who don't like the LGBT community. But again, Scott wasn't like thinking, oh, I need to bury the LGBT community with their efforts in getting human rights. That's not what Scott was voting to these candidates for. We have to remember that. We got to keep, and this is why it's so good to keep an open mind and stay like, I don't know if staying neutral is the correct term, because apparently some people are telling me that it's bad to stay neutral on these types of issues. Now, I don't want to say they're right or wrong, but also like it's videos like this that make me think the way I do. I always look into like more things. So, for example, like some people might be accused of really spooky stuff, like being a racist, being a transphobe, being a predator. You always, for me, like, cause just seeing all this stuff and seeing the initial side, you'll say like, well, there we go. There's evidence. They're saying it. This must be true. I'm always thinking like, I can see it. However, I need to look into this first. But I want to hear from the other side before coming to a conclusion. So that's what. So it's why videos like this prompt me to think the way I do now, and I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing to stay neutral. On certain issues, maybe, but on, I don't know.
Outside of that, the only commonality that I could see across pretty much every candidate that Scott chose to support was keeping the military strong. Now, to be sure, not everyone places the same emphasis on that issue or considers America at high risk. People on the other side of this issue may believe that the bigger threat is personal rights of people who are already in the country.
I agree.
Again, I am not here to decide that issue or pass judgment on anyone's priorities. God forbid,
Yeah,
I do
no.
not want to do that. But it is my theory, my political theory, that Scott, like so many other Americans, may have found himself caught in a situation where no one candidate truly reflected the complete slate of policies that he supported. And when his first choice of candidate bowed out of the race, one who was publicly pro-LGBTQ rights at the time, he moved on to the next best option in his mind, considering the issue that he thought was most important, in this case foreign policy, therefore him supporting Trump. And let me be clear, I'm not trying to explain away his actions or anything like that, not at all. Am I surprised that he donated to these people?
Yeah.
But is it enough for me to throw away all the goodwill that I've seen him put into this franchise and his community over the years? No. It's not.
I would say
Like I
no.
said,
Absolutely not.
A donation is a donation, and to many that is more than enough to condemn him. But I just thought it was interesting in my research and deserved to be called out when talking about this really complicated topic. I think the challenge here is that life isn't black and white, red or blue, and that the internet a lot of times struggles with nuance.
Yeah.
Struggles with those gray areas. I gotta be honest, I'm sad that this is how everything wound up. Seeing ScottGames.com go dark after years of me checking it for updates or digging into the source code for hidden clues, it was a sobering moment. It was a sad moment knowing that it was dead now, as a fan of this franchise and as someone who respects all the work that Scott's done. But I think the solace that I have, and what I would encourage anyone out there who is struggling with this to look at, is the net good that this series has provided. Regardless of Scott's political affiliation, his true beliefs, whatever they may be, this series has been a source of security and identity for so many people over the last 7 years, and it will continue to be that moving forward for even more. Life just isn't a game of absolutes.
I agree.
Life is all about trying to do the greatest good with the hand that you've been dealt, and the good that is spawned out of Freddy and his friends, for creators, for fans, for gaming as a whole, it's incalculable.
I agree.
My last few theories have had this recurring theme of, it's a new era of FNAF, the old story is dead, we're on to the next iteration of this franchise, blah, 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 blah. And I gotta be honest, now that rings true more than ever. But I assure you, I'll be here with you for the ride. But hey, that's not a theory, honestly. That's a fact. I am gonna be here with you for the ride. But
That's funny he says that considering he's retired now. It is really ironic that he says it in this video now. Oh god. But yeah, so now some people might be questioning why I chose to post this as a reaction video. Because for me, it's not about the politics. For me, it's studying like human behavior. Because it's like how Matt Pat said. It's not black and white. It's not red or blue. It's not like one color or the other. There's always gonna be a messy blend somewhere. It's a gray area, and it doesn't. It's not really. It can be darker or lighter depending on the area you go. It's gonna get like meshy. I think the thing that I would encourage most is always look at both sides. And if you whenever you see evidence from, or if you see evidence from both sides, you have to go with whichever one aligns with the truth more, or at least that's what I think. I want to say that there is a slight nuance when it comes with people being like accusers and stuff, because you got to remember, I was affiliated once, or rather, people have to remember that I exposed a creator. I'm not gonna say who because I'd rather not relive that, but I exposed like one particular creator who I thought was a friend, and I saw so much insurmountable evidence that like I couldn't see it as anything except true. Now, obviously, there are gonna be some like lies here and there, but generally speaking, you have to be able to discern what is a lie and what's true. And I got so much information from several people on my side, or rather on the side of what the movement was like going for. And then the other side that was accused, while they did provide, it wasn't enough. It wasn't like enough for them to get out of the rut that they dug themselves in. Some people might just not explain some stuff that they did, and if worse comes to shove, some people might flat out deny it. The worst thing that they can do is deny it and show no evidence. Now, you could say, oh, that's because it didn't happen and stuff, but that's literally not true. You could even have, like, human witnesses, like, being there and saying, like, yeah, no, this happened. This happened and stuff. I don't know. I think we're getting off, we're kind of getting off track, but the point is that, like, yeah, consider both sides of, consider both sides and evidence before coming to your conclusion. Only then, I think, is it safe to make a conclusion or something like that. Yeah, I want to reiterate that this video is not going to be monetized because this is discussing stuff that I really would not be comfortable making a profit from, because good God, there's some pretty messed up stuff that we need to talk about. Oh my God. But yeah. I'm gonna be right back. I'm gonna go decompress for a tiny bit. Hi, sorry, was I away for so long? I'm so sorry. Okay, so after that roller coaster of a video, we have one more video. This one, we're thankfully ending on a high note. Something like that. Okay. We got one more video that I want to watch. It's this one. Obvious cheater fakes blindfolded Super Mario 64 speedrun. This is honestly one of the funniest videos to me because the circumstances around it are really funny. Obviously the cheating itself is not funny, but yeah, I mean, it happens, huh? It's bound to happen eventually. Some people are gonna find some stupid ways to like try cheating around, but yeah. Let's watch, shall we? Sorry, I'm too Coney brain celled right now. I'm too Coney pilled for those wondering. I really like this.
Despite the immense popularity of Super Mario 64 speedrunning, there is a comparatively small amount of people running the blindfolded categories, a testament to how difficult blindfolded speedrunning really is. And so it was surprising when I was on Twitch this week and was notified of another runner doing blindfolded 16-star runs. Blindfolded runs of Super Mario 64 have recently been made popular by a small but extremely dedicated group of runners. However, there are clear differences between the runs that those already established players have done and the runs that this particular person is completing. The main difference, of course, being that this particular runner is creating fake runs and attempting to pass them off as real.
It's really sad. It's really sad that it's come to this, because yeah, there are people like so willing to let a number define them as a person. Like they attribute their value to a number. Now, I'm not saying it's bad. It's just like, don't let it be like your absolute blinding like achievement that you want to get.
I have here a video of one of these runs, and I aim to show some of the clear discrepancies between this run and the genuine blindfolded runs of SM64 that are out there. When watching this run, it's important to note that the author claims not to have practiced blindfolded speedrunning much at all, and that this is apparently only his third blindfolded run. He claims to make up for this with the fact that he's been playing Super Mario 64 for the past 3.5 years. However, it should be noted that despite the amount of time he has spent on the game, the best time on a run he has currently submitted is in 1826, a relatively mid-level time for 16-star. The first thing that actually...
Dude, honestly, I've never been able to get lower than 20 minutes on 16-star. I've never been able to do that. It might be just because, like, I'm not as gifted as, like, the actual, like, gamers out there, but, oh god, dude, getting below 20 minutes is so hard in 16-star. And I play on a modified like version of Mario 64, so that's why I personally have not submitted anything, and quite honestly, I'm not even able to like submit anything at all in the first place. I just like admiring speedrun stuff, and I don't think that's a bad thing, or at least I hope it's not a bad thing.
put me off when I was watching this run was the fact that the streamer had both follow alerts and text-to-speech alerts on.
Let's go. Thank you for the follow.
If you've ever seen a blindfolded speedrun before, you will know that runners pretty much always have these kind of sound alerts turned off. Considering how important sound cues are when you literally can't see, you would think that he would do the same. However, this guy is so good, he apparently doesn't even need clear sound cues to do the run. Throughout this run, he also attempts multiple times to explain the strategies that he's been using, except there are multiple problems with what he's saying versus the things he's actually doing.
I wanna really quick have people pay attention to how the streamer himself is like looking, cause like, do you notice that he's looking in one specific direction the entire time, and then the one time he does read chat, he looks the other way? Like, hang on, I'm gonna have something edited so like people can see that.
He mainly claims to be using a combination of sound cues and muscle memory for most of his strats. Most speedrunners know, however, that visual cues in particular are just as important as muscle memory in many cases.
Correct.
It's very unrealistic to assume that anyone could just casually do a blindfolded run off of visual muscle memory alone, no matter how long that person has been playing.
I've tried to do stars. I can't do 1 star blindfolded. Like, even though I've played this game for years and years and years, even trying to do 1 star blindfolded is insanely difficult.
I agree.
Blindfolded speedruns often employ what are called normalized strategies. A normalized strategy is any strat that is done in such a way that the outcome is always exactly the same. In Super Mario 64, many of these kinds of strategies can be employed. For example, moving in a cardinal direction on a controller with notches, using 2 slow walks to ledge grab at the corner of a platform, or punching against a wall to push Mario backwards a fixed distance are all normalized strats.
Dude.
As you can imagine, these kinds of strats are often completely different from the ones you would see in a normal run, and require hundreds of hours to properly
Dude, these are
learn.
some.
And yet
These
this
are some of the
person is
coolest
claiming
strats
to have a
ever.
33-minute time after openly admitting to having little to no preparation.
Yep.
Keep that in mind when you look at the so-called blindfolded strats that are claimed to be employed here.
Uh-huh.
The run begins in Bob-omb Battlefield with Behind the Chain Chomp's Gate. Looking at a legitimate example by Bubzia, you can see that a consistent setup with clear intention is being used in order to get onto the Chain Chomp's pole. Note the use of a notched angle and fixed camera in order to guarantee a direct path to the pole from the corner of the gate.
I remember watching a video by Jay Witz where he tried doing this exact star from when he enters the world to getting the star at all. Because yeah, it turns out it's really, really hard to get the star when you literally cannot see. So you have to go off of sound cues, but if something goes wrong or you think something goes wrong, you have to start all the way again, and you have to come up with like backup strats. It's really difficult, man.
Comparatively, this runner seemed to have absolutely no normalized setup whatsoever. He takes what looks like either an intentional death or a legitimate mistake, and then tries again a second time.
Hang on, I want to see how he reacts.
This runner seemed to have absolutely no normalized setup whatsoever. He takes what looks like either an intentional death or a
Okay. Okay, so hearing you take the damage sound, I don't know if he I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt that he was keeping track of the amount of damage he was taking, but this video by Charlie Brown 64. Yeah, this video. Also, hi Cricket, how you doing? Welcome to the stream. But yeah, like, just thank you for the follow. It's just
no normalized setup whatsoever. He takes what looks like either an intentional death,
like, you see he goes fuck,
or
okay, so then he like, okay, I'm curious to know the actual run. Wait, I wanna like just pay close attention to Can I send recommendations for video? Sure, but I'll probably just take one more video. I just realized he he deleted a lot of his videos, I think. So yeah, we can't even see how that works. Okay, never mind. Your old username was BrandonPlays3. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, hello. Funny close. Yeah, we were very close in that. Yeah, I won't never know what was going through this guy's head because we don't have the original run.
A legitimate mistake, and then tries again a second time. This time around, he seems to be using an almost completely different, yet still unnormalized...
That wouldn't even work, because...
This time around, he seems to be using an almost completely different...
You notice that, like, here, he punches... Also, you reacting to music? No, probably not. You notice that he punches here, but it doesn't actually do anything, because all it does is make Mario, like, go, yeah! There's no, like, collision sound with the fence, but even so, he turns the camera.
To get onto the pole. The unexpected hit that he takes here from the chain chomp should have immediately thrown him off, and yet he is somehow still able to turn around and recover. The runner seems to be using intentional mistakes along with fake setups to try to sell the idea that he is actually blindfolded. Many more of these will come up throughout the run. The run is already off to a suspicious start. However, the first absolutely massive red flag appears in Womp's Fortress when the runner decides to opt for Owless, a strat usually reserved for sighted runs.
Yeah, you never go for Owless in a blindfolded run. And even like doing it for a sighted run, if you don't have the correct positioning, then it's gonna be like taking up some time.
It should be noted how much the runner is talking during this very input-heavy and spacing-dependent section.
Hang on, I do wonder, because there is a portion here where it shows like one of his other runs. I'm curious to see something.
Did I check for saves? No, because I don't save the game.
Again, anyone who has watched a real blindfolded speedrun before knows how quiet runners tend to be during difficult sections.
Like, that positioning is not correct. I'm gonna tell people right now that positioning is just flat out not correct.
With how much focus and skill are required to complete a blindfolded run, it's an anomaly that this runner with barely any practice is so casually able to do a strat that no other blindfolded runner has attempted. And yet with absolutely no normalized
That's too far.
strats, he
That's
seems
too far
to do
out.
everything with some relative ease. Looking at a run that this same runner has done without a blindfold, you can actually see that he can do the exact same movements, blindfold or not. His most
I can't tell if that's like the like same like setup that he has. Cause like his face cam. No, I can't. I shouldn't move that. Cause like his face cam has it so. Like he's looking down. He's looking down a little bit. So that's probably where his screen is. So judging from that, you can probably guess that like on the blindfolded run, he's doing the same thing.
muscle memory must really be that good. On his first attempt, he is able to triple jump wall kick up to the floating island without giving himself any sort of indication where he is. With absolutely no normalization,
It's too far out.
He's able to attempt and fail Owless 3 times before finally landing it a 4th time.
I actually want to. Let me actually try. Let me actually try that because I have an idea of the spacing for doing Owless. I do have an idea of how to do that spacing. Let me see if I can do that. Alright, Let's see this.
Okie dokie.
I'm gonna allow this real quick. Alright, let's see. That's not it. So yeah, we're gonna be doing like Owless real quick. And like, this just like going to show like, you need like very specific spacing on the island here. Because like here, like if you try to like triple jump like right around like the outer rim of the island, I don't think you even make it. So you have to do it just a little bit like before the outer rim. So for example, right here, you won't make it. But I think if you do it here, nope, that's too far. If you do it right around here, this is perfect. Well, you jumped out a little out. That was perfect spacing, you just jumped out. This should be good. Yeah. No, okay. Alright. Very close, very close. I was off by a little bit. Yeah, that's it. My spacing was off for the first three. In fact, if I try it again, I think I can get it. I think I can get it first try, like here now. My game. Okay, so look here, right? So if you jump just a little, like, before the outer rim of this island, game? So if you jump a little before the outer rim of this island, like there on the outer rim, I was on the outer rim. Okay, Mario, you wanna like behave? Let's see, like here, right here. Nope, I jumped out. So let's see. Jumped out again. This should be good. Yep. See? So the thing is that there is proper spacing that goes with that. Why did my Steam open up? I did not need that shown on there. That's a YouTube short, huh?
He even comments on the fact that he should probably learn how to use the owl blindfolded.
Maybe I should learn how to just ride the owl blindfolded.
I don't even know if that's the normalized strat on how to do this particular cage star. I'm gonna assume it is from the blindfolded runs that I've seen. I don't know.
It's anyone's guess why he didn't opt to learn this much more consistent strat in the first place. In the next star, he goes for the traditional
Like, let me
to learn
actually
this much
see.
more consistent strat in the first place. In the next star, he goes for the traditional cannonless setup that you would normally see in most sighted runs. Once again, looking at a blindfolded version of this strat, there is a clear
Maybe it's a particular spot that I chose to jump from then. I don't know.
intention with every
Theory
input
broken.
using normalized movements and guaranteed setups. Looking back at this run, however, the movement across the falling bridge and over to the piranha plant is extremely wobbly and very inconsistent. He then lines up next to the plank using these extremely small adjustments that have no audio cues whatsoever.
Yeah.
Anyone that runs this game or has even tried this trick before knows that it's pretty precise.
It is
The
extremely
only possible
precise.
way anyone could do it blindfolded with the movement used here would be if they weren't actually blindfolded at all, and were instead using a distinctly visual cue.
I also find this particular star really fun. I love the cannonless star, just because you see Mario zoom all the way down. He down warps so far to the point where the music doesn't even catch up. Like, it plays at a very specific point, but you're not in the window where the music should be playing. So it just ends up cutting off really abruptly, and I think it's really funny.
The run only gets more and more suspicious from this point onward. Following a couple more extremely wonky and unnormalized setups in Cool Cool Mountain, we reach Bowser in the Dark World, the first Bowser stage. Here, only a true gamer such as this man would be able to somehow sidestep this Goomba, quickly make his way up the path,
Only a true
and then
gamer.
do this long jump to the next red, all completely blindfolded and with absolutely no setup necessary.
I don't think I've specifically never tried this jump. Or at least I've never succeeded at getting this jump. Every time I have tried, I've failed. I have failed this jump several times. I don't think I've got it once. The reason is because I'm jumping way too early. And even then, sometimes you just don't even make it. You don't even bonk the wall.
Simply amazing.
I heard you, Goomba.
He then punches a Goomba that he claims he heard, even though there is no good way of gauging distance that precise with sound cues in SM64.
Yep.
It would have probably been both faster and safer to just keep walking forward anyway. Notice then the small adjustment he makes in order to be lined up with the final slope.
That is...
Anyone who is actually blindfolded here would have almost certainly kept holding right with no adjustment. And yet this man somehow knew he was just a little too far down, despite having absolutely no real setup beforehand.
I also want to, like, show right here.
Blindfolded here would have almost certainly kept holding right with no adjustment.
Do you notice that he stops, like, one moment? So, yes, anybody who is actually blindfolded, they would not have made that adjustment at the end. They also would have not stopped running on this little ramp, at least from what I'm thinking. Because you're inclined to believe that all you can do is just run straight right. But then here it is, like, he is stopping just so the ramp, or at least the little seesaw here, can be just enough for him to triple jump up,
And
or,
yet this
or
man
double jump
somehow
up.
knew he was just a little too far down, despite having absolutely no real setup beforehand. If none of this was suspicious enough, then next we have the first Bowser throw. Looking at legitimate runs by Katoon and Bubsy, we can see that a setup is being used to slowly move Bowser into the bomb without even throwing him. For a faster strat, you can also toss him a little earlier with a slower spin, which provides a much larger frame window than normal to hit the throw. It should be noted that there is also a consistent way to throw Bowser at full speed, using a combination of pause buffering and a sound cue. When Mario is spinning Bowser, a distinctive whoosh noise will play. This noise will always play whenever Bowser faces north, regardless of the camera angle or Bowser's orientation when grabbing him. Furthermore, the whoosh will make a slightly different sound depending on what frame you pause on.
This is one of the coolest things ever. Like, you see, like, in too early, it's very light, but then, like, after early, it's really, really, like, pronounced. It's heavy. It's a heavy sound that it makes. And I think it gets a little less heavy, like, at the too late part.
This is the strategy that Nobori implements, and it's how he's able to consistently pause buffer a B press to throw Bowser into the bomb. However, it seems like this runner couldn't be bothered to learn any of these strats.
Nope.
He instead opts to throw Bowser in the conventional way, while claiming to also be using a sound cue. Notice, however, that he also opts to turn his camera towards the bomb. As explained, turning the camera during spins does not affect the timing of any audio cues, and so it would be pointless to do this if the runner was truly blindfolded. It's pretty obvious here that he's just turning the camera so he can visually see when to throw.
Doesn't that suck?
Moving on to Basement, we see another series of extremely suspicious and inconsistent setups. In Shifting Sandland, he is somehow able to get the Talon Star using a strategy only viable for visual runs.
You
The
absolutely
amount of
cannot
adjustment
do that.
needed to long jump to the Fly Guy and twirl over to Klepto is simply too precise to be done consistently in a blindfolded run. That doesn't stop this guy, though. He's able to do it first try with no issues. In Hazy Maze Cave, however, he reverts back to setups that might pass as blindfolded to try to further sell the idea that he cannot see. However, the quote-unquote setups he is using make absolutely no sense. On the emergency exit star, he seems to have created some kind of fake counting system involving more unnormalized and inconsistent movements.
I hate doing long jumps in here because more often than not for me, I am impatient enough to where long jumping
He seems
at
to have
this
created
part
some
here,
kind of fake
like long jumping here makes me just do a regular jump and then just fall into the pit here.
counting system involving more unnormalized and inconsistent movements.
Okay. 1, 2.
Compare this again to Nobori's strat, which uses normalized movements along with the game's fixed camera option for even more consistent angles. Up to this point, the run has been extremely suspect at best. However, what
Dude.
happens in the second half absolutely destroys what little credibility it had in the first place. The last half of this run is so blatantly fake that it makes the previous 20 minutes look completely legit by comparison.
And yes. Oh, come on, let's go.
We now come to Mip's clip, in my opinion one of the most impressive sections of Blindfolded 16 Star. Successfully doing Mip's clip in a real blindfolded speedrun requires an extremely precise setup involving walking into a corner with the correct camera angle, and then repeatedly re-grabbing Mips to achieve the correct spacing on the door. This is one of the most difficult and precise sections in the entire run. In the castle basement, even the tiniest mistap to the left or right can mess up your camera entirely, breaking any setup you may have had. This runner, however, throws all of that out the window. To clip through the basement door, he basically just runs straight at it and ends up in the right spot. No setup needed. Remember that there are absolutely zero sound cues here. There is absolutely no way he can know how close or far away he is from the door, because he is using literally no setup.
Yeah.
The exact same is true for his clip through the 30-star door. Once again, with
He just
absolutely
runs
no
at it.
discernible audio cues and no real setup whatsoever, he somehow either knows exactly where he is on the door, or just gets lucky enough to clip through it after randomly guessing. He spends around 30 seconds here walking back and forth along the door, and somehow is able to find the exact right spot to make it through.
Right there.
Somehow it still gets worse after this. At this point, he pretty much goes through the rest of the game without even thinking about what a real blindfolded run should look like.
Yep.
It really looks like he's just given up on trying to sell the illusion any further. He approaches the submarine in Dire Dire Docks from a seemingly random angle, and then tries to make it look like he knows where he is by jumping at it.
I slid off something. Oh fuck, am I at the submarine? Yes, okay.
The fact that he even says this is strange to me. There is literally nothing else in this level that you can slide off besides the sub.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really make any sense to act as if he had to figure out what he was sliding on. He needed
Dude, also, like, completely random, I would imagine it's really, really hard to actually, like, swim blindfolded to this submarine at all. I would think that more often than not, there are gonna be, like, some people that just drown before even making it to the ship. Unless, that being said, some people are obviously gonna know, like, which directions to hold in and stuff like that. But I don't see myself being able to do this.
to make it look like he had some kind of cue to go off of, and then did the absolute bare minimum to try to make it convincing. He then approaches the back of the sub as you would in a normal speedrun, but he ends up under the fin, causing the camera to go in an awkward direction.
This is really
It should
bad.
be painfully obvious how bad this looks. A real blindfolded runner would be completely disoriented in this situation, and there is no consistent way you could realistically recover from this. Despite this, he is somehow able to loop back around at the perfect angle and lands back on the fin.
This is
Once
not
again,
feasible.
with absolutely zero sound cues or any setup. Nothing suspicious to see here.
Yeah.
And then
it's
there's
terrible.
Fire Sea.
Turning the camera, first red flag. More camera turning. No,
That was literally just muscle memory.
it's not. No, dude. You are turning the camera, man. Oh my god. Dude, turning the camera like this is not what blindfolded speedrunning looks like, dude. It needs to be consistent and set up. This won't work for a blindfolded runner.
Right. So after some more fake strats in Fire Sea, one fake Bowser throw setup, and some suspicious BLJ lineups, we finally come to what manages to be the worst part of the run by far. This run's Bowser in the Sky is pure gold. It contains such a large amount of glaring flaws and inconsistencies that it's insane that anyone could look at it and believe that the person playing could not actually see. He immediately starts the course with, again, completely unnormalized strats, moving through the course with small adjustments that have seemingly no explanation.
Yeah.
He then commits what is possibly the most obvious and completely shameless move in the entire run.
Oh no. There's so many things wrong with this.
Fuck, I didn't get that extra life.
I was laughing my ass off when I first saw this.
Yep.
Not only does he somehow know exactly where the 1-up box is,
Yep.
but he also knows exactly what direction the 1-up will go in once it spawns, something completely determined by RNG. Then, after chasing it on a moving platform for a completely arbitrary amount of time, he somehow knows exactly when and where to jump to the left.
Yeah, all three of those things. You know where the box is, you know what direction the 1-up mushroom is gonna go as soon as you pop it. And then you oh my god. Then you know exactly where to jump to get off of the platform. That's so unbelievably terrible.
You don't even need to know anything about Super Mario 64 or blindfolded speedrunning to understand that what just happened is completely bullshit. Immediately after skipping the first 1-up, he messes around on the first rotating elevator, grabbing the next 1-up in the process.
Yes, okay.
Shut the fuck
All
up.
clearly a calculated setup. After this, he once again makes an intentional mistake in order to make people think he's actually blindfolded.
I fell off. I can tell I fell off.
This is
I don't see as many people like as usual like talking about that soundbite.
makes an intentional mistake.
I fell.
He's actually blindfolded.
Look at this.
I fell off. I can tell I fell off.
That is 10 Mario coin sounds onto one sound alert. That is gonna disrupt a blindfolded speedrunner. You're doing a blindfolded run, and then you just hear the Mario coin sound. That's gonna be really disorienting and really annoying.
This is somehow the first and only time in this 40-minute run that he accidentally runs off of a platform. Except immediately after falling off, he somehow also knows to pull back to the right so he doesn't fall all the way down. Only then does he comment that he knows he's fallen down, again with absolutely no discernible sound cues. Following this, he traverses the wooden platforms and tries to go for yet another 1-up.
There should be a life on one of these.
He clearly saw this 1-up with his eyes, but then remembered he was supposed to be blindfolded.
That's such a funny sentence, by the way. That is one of the funniest sentences ever. He saw this 1-up with his eyes, but then remembered he was supposed to be blindfolded. It's like, whoops, sorry, I just remembered.
So he passes it off by acting like he knew there should be a 1-up there and goes back to grab it. Again, no setup whatsoever.
Ah, got it.
Watch now as he somehow knows exactly where he is on the spinning platform and knows exactly where the first pole is. Again, anyone who is actually blindfolded here amount of adjustments is an audio cue. He makes his way to the next is able to make a completely random amount of adjustments to make it onto the pole. He then makes his way to the next pole and grabs the red, which he seems to be using as an audio cue.
Mm-hmm. So he hears that.
Then, immediately after jumping off of the pole that he knows he was just on, he attempts to use 2 bob-ombs on the next platform to further determine his position.
There should be like some bomb up. Yes, okay.
This is absolutely pointless, as he had already just verified where he was.
Yeah, you just figured out where you were. Hearing the red coin, you should know what camera angle you should be able to like use to get onto the next platform, and then you just head for the wall. There's no risk in like not going for the wall, because you'll hear that Mario's like scooching like around the wall, I think, and then you can just like hold left.
All he had to do here was hold forward and he would have reached the next wall.
Okay, well,
At this
I just
point,
said
he
that.
once again reiterates the fact that this is only his 3rd blindfolded run ever.
This is your second blindfolded run, isn't it?
Technically this is my third. The first one I did was like, I don't know.
Here, dude, there's no consistent way to get on these things. You have to do one of the Nobori strats to like get on to the next level of the stage, because there is no consistent way to get onto those spinning plats.
No. I don't remember how long it took me.
In the last 4 minutes alone, there have been countless points of extreme suspicion. From the moment he enters the stage to the moment he enters the final pipe, there is almost nothing that could be considered even remotely legitimate.
Yep.
However, the final Bowser throws that he does in the next 4 minutes are somehow even worse. He begins by grabbing Bowser using the normal visual method. Running around Bowser with a tight enough circle to grab him is something that heavily relies on visual cues to properly do. This is why in a real blindfolded run, a setup is used for the first 2 grabs that involves luring Bowser to a bomb from the edge of the platform. For the final throw, a separate normalized setup is used. And yet, after only 1 miss, this person is able to grab Bowser in the normal way, no problem. Note that after this first mistake, he does not miss a single tail grab for the rest of the fight. He then winds up for the first throw and misses. Once a throw is missed, Bowser will jump back onto the stage differently depending on where he fell off. There
Yep.
isn't a very good way to account for this, so the only real backup is to run off and try again from the beginning. But this guy doesn't do that. He instead goes for a re-grab and gets it,
Yep.
again with no setup and no sound cues. He hits the throw on his second try, again using the normal visual method of throwing. During his second throw, he stops and talks for about 30 seconds to explain how he first learned to speedrun
How often
blindfolded.
have you practiced outside of stream while blindfolded? A viewer is asking.
Actually not a lot.
Yeah, and that's just hearing that means how do you do this? How are you doing this blindfolded run? You need to be doing this for like hundreds to even like thousands of hours maybe. Because this is impossible to do like with just like a few. You don't just take a day to yourself and just do this. You need to practice this a lot.
I feel like if I practiced more, I'd be a lot better at it. Most of this is just muscle memory and listening to the audio cues. But I've been speedrunning and playing Mario 64 for 3.5 years solid.
Dude, if I was Bowser, by the way, I would just be like, dude, can I just cut my tail off so I can regrow another one?
So like I could, and well, during streams I would like, because I knew before I did my first blindfolded run stream, I would test myself by just like looking at my other monitor or just looking at like away from the TV and doing the run.
He is one.
Dude, I would lose track of where I was if I was Bowser, like here, because I've been spinning for like 7 hours.
Once again, constantly talking during a section that should take an extreme amount of focus to execute. And yet, he still figures out exactly when he needs to throw Bowser.
Oh fuck yeah.
After messing around for another minute, he then gets another re-grab, once again with no setup or any possible audio cues. During the final throw, he turns the camera not once, but twice to visually aim at 2 separate
There it is
bombs.
again, the camera
He
turning.
then goes on yet another explanation about how he's able to do Bowser throws the way he's doing them.
Let's hear him.
So what I'm doing right now, the reason why it's taken me so long to throw him is because I'm trying to time it based on like where my thumb is
Dude, oh my god.
on the controller, on the thumbstick.
That's not how that works.
Because that's typically like right around where Mario is, like the direction that he's gonna throw.
No, it's not.
I need it to be like, if I think the bomb is where I think it is, if the bomb is where I think it is, and I'm looking at it, then
Looking at it, by the way.
Obviously, none of this makes sense in the first place, but he is directly contradicting himself here. Here he says something vague about using where his thumb is on the stick to know where Bowser is, which already makes no sense on its own, except he also mentioned in his first Bowser throw that he was using sound cues.
Yep.
Bowser is a little bit tricky. The sound cues on this is actually kind of hard. Okay.
That's so dumb. Dude, I remember watching Cheese's video of this particular video or reaction of this particular video. Hang on, let me see if I can find it. I remember something so unbelievably funny from this. Let me see.
Where Bowser is, which already makes no sense on its own.
Tier in me. How are you able?
What I'm doing right now.
Exactly when he needs to throw Bowser.
So it's this video here.
Oh fuck yeah.
After messing around for another minute, he then gets another regrab, once again with no setup or any possible option.
Oh fuck yeah. If I could punch my monitor and hit him, I would do it.
Okay.
Oh my god! Storm, thanks for resub, babe.
During the final throw, he turns the camera not once, but twice to visually aim at 2 separate bombs. He then goes on yet another explanation about how he's able to do Bowser throws the way he's doing them.
Yes, tell me, how are you able?
What I'm doing right now. The reason why it's taking me so long to throw him.
Uh-huh.
I'm trying to time it based on like where my thumb is on the controller. On the
Interesting.
button,
Okay.
because
People G's in chat, guys, write this down. This is top tier information, alright? I'm learning.
Dude, I find it so funny because I remember saying this to one of my friends who we reacted to this video like again later, because it's like Cheese is the college professor who is trying to teach class, and there's like 1 or 2 students like dicking around, like saying like, no, that's stupid, I know how to do it my way. And it's obviously wrong, but he's trying to entertain it anyway. It's just, all right, follow what they're doing, see if write their stuff down. This is super top tier information. It's so funny. It's because it's like he knows that it's wrong, but he still lets them try. It's like such a dickhead move.
This whole time, he's just been giving fake technical explanations to try to convince his viewers that he actually knows what he's doing. Except he also misses this throw because he was too far away to ever hit the bomb in the first place, something he probably should have known whether he could actually see or not.
Yeah.
Maybe he's only pretending to be blindfolded so he can hide the fact that he sucks at Bowser throws.
Ooh, don't do that. That's not cool. You can't Charlie Brown 64. This is where I disagree with you a little bit. You shouldn't be dissing people's like gaming skill. That is one of the dumbest things I've ever said. I'm sorry.
fuck. Okay.
Also, like his reaction here. Hang on.
See or not. Maybe he's only pretending to be blindfolded so he can hide the fact that he sucks at Bowser throws.
Oh. Fuck. Okay.
So you notice that he reacts saying like, oh, right? You notice that he reacts like that. There's no sound cue that would have given him the impression that Bowser didn't hit the bomb, other than like, oh, he missed it like 2 seconds later. Because the sound cue that he didn't hit the bomb is that Bowser makes a sound and then jumps back on the stage. He reacted before Bowser even made a sound.
The fact that he sucks at Bowser throws.
Oh.
Yeah, exactly.
Fuck. Okay.
He eventually does land the last throw, luckily avoiding all the fire on the ground and barely avoiding running off the edge. Nothing but pure skill and game sense.
Oh my god.
After the run is over, he is challenged multiple times by one of the only doubters in his chat. He is asked to verify that he can actually do blindfolded Bowser throws, but refuses to do even the simplest test to prove it.
Doesn't that suck?
So would you be opposed to?
See, right here. This is what I was talking about. I already had this like on the screen before, but dude, this is exactly what I'm talking about, where like he was looking at one specific part this entire run. And then the moment he reads chat, it's on somewhere else. So that probably tells you
To do even the simplest test to prove it.
let me see.
So would you be opposed
That probably
to
tells you like
bouncing
there is gameplay on the monitor that was directly in front of him.
this guy and throws while turned around with a blanket over my head? You'll give me $50 if I do it turned around with a blanket over my head? know.
Despite the glaring flaws in this person's gameplay, he has somehow been able to convince all but a few of his viewers that his blindfolded runs are legit.
Cannot
Messages
believe
in his
this.
Twitch and Facebook gaming chats show that most of the people watching him are completely convinced that what they're seeing is real. The best I can possibly assume in this situation is that he may actually be doing some of these parts at least partially blindfolded, only peeking through the blindfold whenever he's completely lost or doesn't know what to do. It's either that or the blindfold is just completely see-through, and his only goal during the run is to make it look like he can't actually see. I almost thought this run was a joke, but it's clear from the way he's talking about his gameplay that he's completely serious.
Yep.
I can only speculate on this person's motives for faking these runs, but my best guess is that he's doing it for either the money or the views. It should be noted that during the run, the only way to communicate with him was to donate bits to play a text-to-speech message on stream. Considering the run is fake, this just seems like a scummy way for him to take money from people.
I honestly
But honestly,
agree.
for only 1 bit per message, it doesn't really seem that bad. If the amount was any higher, I would probably have a much bigger problem with it.
I agree. It's just the fact that it's like 1 bit, so it's fine.
But whatever small amount of money he did collect is probably the least of our worries here.
Yeah, it's whatever.
There hasn't been a notable cheating incident in the Mario 64 community for a few years now, so I guess we were about due for another one. By faking this run, this person has not only made a complete mockery of blindfolded speedrunning, but has also detracted from the hard work of people who have actually put in the insane amount of time needed to do this for real. This particular run ended with a 42-minute time, however he claims to have completed a faster time of 33:23, a time which would be considered second place on the current leaderboards. When asked if he will submit the time, however, he claimed that he wants to take first place before he makes any submissions.
Lol.
I trust, however, that the mods of the category are smart enough to see that any run he submits will be clearly invalid.
Yep.
Though I wouldn't be surprised if he never even submits a run, because he probably knows that it would never get verified anyway. If you happen to see this guy on Twitch or anywhere else, please just don't interact with him. I've intentionally left his name out of this video, 1 because I don't wish for anyone to harass him over this, and 2 because I don't believe that any cheater deserves attention past simply being exposed.
I agree.
I want to give a big shout out to both Katoon and Bubzia for their incredible help on this video. They helped to clarify a lot of questions I had about blindfolded Mario 64, and this video would not have been as comprehensive without their inputs.
They're very cool.
Also thanks to both them and Nobori for allowing me to use their footage for comparisons.
Nobori is insane. Oh my god, Nobori is ridiculous. I think he's like the best blindfolded speedrunner of SM64. He's so good. Bubsy is obviously up there too, and then like again, Katoon is like amazing. I'm sure there are like others that I'm like forgetting right now, but like dude, these are some of the most notable ones, and yeah, the fact that they're on this video helping here, well, Katoon and Bubsy like helped with this video, and then Nobori just like allowed the use of their footage. It's very cool of them. I think that's sick.
I've left links to all of their streams and YouTube channels in the description. Please check all 3 of them out if you want to see some legitimate blindfolded runs of Mario 64, as well as many other games. These people have genuinely put in the insane amount of time and focus needed to successfully complete these runs for real. They're the ones who truly deserve it. If you please, you can also subscribe to this channel and
Here's
check me out
Charlie
over on
Brown.
Twitch. My runs aren't quite as cool as these guys yet, but we'll still have some fun.
That's so funny. That's really funny. Oh, that's so nice. Good video. Good video. Amazing video. This is a great video. I honestly think this is one of the better videos like of like SM64 like at all. At least when it comes to like the scripted like structure and stuff. Oh man. Yeah. Man, I spent like 2 hours or so like just reacting to videos. That's crazy. Alright, with that being said, I am probably going to be ending stream now. Oh, whoops, that's the wrong thing. I am going to be ending stream now, so yeah. I shall talk to you guys soon. So, bye-bye.